Oh, hey, it's you. Well, it's me, Adam Ragusia, the guy who cooks on the internet and used to watch him all the time during COVID and now not so much anymore. That's fine. That particular global catastrophe was a massive financial windfall for me, hence the in-progress home renovation. Speaking of money, I posted a video last week about the differences between aquatic crustaceans and insects and why we tend to be really excited to eat the former but not the latter. Former and not the latter. What order did I do them in? Right. And YouTube, not entirely to my surprise, demonetized that video. That's different from demonetizing my channel. That would be a really big deal. For them to say an individual video cannot have ads on it, whatever, that's fine. Actually, it's not fine, and we'll talk about it. Good morning, killers. Oh, I love my pufferfish. The camera's face lock recognized that as a face. Not surprising. It was not immediately demonetized, which suggests it was not a computer algorithm that identified something potentially problematic in the content. Problematic for advertisers is what they're worried about. It happened a few days later, which usually is an indication that a human being came along after the algorithms and looked at the content and determined that it was not advertiser friendly. And why not? Well, we can only guess. They don't give you a reason. Were I a betting man, I would bet that it was this shot right at the top here. It was me eating a bug. YouTube's advertiser-friendly content guidelines warn you about doing things that are shocking or disgusting, and also doing things that could potentially endorse or promote or at least model dangerous behavior. And eating something weird could potentially fall under that, right? And what I think they're really worried about there is stuff like the Tide Pod challenge, right? Where like dumb kids eat legit poisonous stuff just on a bet to try to make shocking content. And that's not what was going on here, but it could definitely have fallen into that category in the mind of a person whose job it is to scan 1 million videos an hour and make really, really quick snap judgments about whether or not their boss is going to get mad at them for not having demonetized that one. But of course that's ironic, because the whole point of the video that I was making is that bugs are crabs, and crabs are bugs. They're all part of the same clade. There's really no particular reason for us to find one gross and the other delicious. That's all kind of the same thing. That doesn't mean that all bugs are safe to eat. They're not. There's lots of poisonous bugs. Doesn't mean that all crustaceans are safe to eat, but that eating their meat is the same basic act. And indeed, there are cultures all around this world where eating bugs is perfectly normal, right? And from a food safety perspective, eating a cooked mealworm, as I did in that video, is probably a whole lot safer than slurping down a raw oyster, which is something that I've done in other videos that were not demonetized. This has happened to me before, of course. Some years ago, I made a video about eating dirt, that is what they call eating kaolin in the deep south of the United States. Kaolin clay is this really pure white clay that they mine along the geological fall line of the southeastern United States. And it's used in like cosmetics, it's used in pharmaceuticals. People ingest it all the time in the context of pharmaceuticals, but also people do just eat it. It's a practice called geophagy. And it's probably not good to eat it because over time it wears down your teeth, but then again a whole lot of foods and other bad habits do that, things that wouldn't necessarily get you demonetized. It's also bad in the sense that there's some research to indicate that geophagy is driven by anemia, or the desire to eat dirt is driven by anemia, but eating the clay at the same time makes mineral nutrients less bioavailable to you, so it might be causing the very anemia that causes the craving, and that's not a good thing, and I talked about that in the video, right? That said, lots of people in Africa eat clay as a cultural practice. Lots of people in the southern United States, many of them descended from West Africans, eat clay as a cultural practice. It's quite a thing to say that an entire millennia-old cultural practice is too dangerous or too shocking for advertiser-friendly content, especially when you consider that I've done tons of content that features drinking alcohol and eating French fries. These are very hazardous things too that are well established in my culture. Those things are fine for advertisers, but not eating clay or eating worms. What's up with that? Check it out, my whole deck where my gas grill was is gone now. It has to be replaced because whoever redid the exterior of this house many years ago did a really crap job of it, and we're having to clean up their messes. And as a tradesman would say, I think what you got here, ma'am, is a pretty classic case of systematic cultural bias. I mean, what else can you call it? If one culture's potentially risky dietary habits are considered perfectly fine, and totally comparable potentially risky dietary habits in another less ascendant culture are considered dangerous and scary, what is that other than cultural bias? And it's systematic or systemic. Should brush up on the difference. It's part of a system because it's not really an individual making a prejudicial choice. It's rather that people have gotten together and they've tried to create a set of policies that they think will be able to cover most possibilities, and they don't intend to institutionalize discrimination into those policies, but they are who they are, and the things that they create reflect their own cultural bias, just as the things that I create reflect my cultural bias. This is one of the reasons why they instituted diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at businesses and other kinds of institutions, and such programs have recently fallen very much out of favor in the United States, but there was a reason why we had them. I mean, don't cry for me, Argentina. I'm a rich white guy. This is not about me. This is about other people who are more likely to be affected by these problems in more meaningful ways. Now, it's possible to appeal a decision like that, or just kind of request a review of it. I did not do that because I think that they could potentially argue that although there was nothing dangerous about eating the mealworm, there was something shocking about killing the mealworm, which I did in the video. I'm steaming it alive, but hey, how do you think they kill lobsters and crabs? But ultimately, I understand that advertiser-friendly content guidelines aren't necessarily about logic, it's about money. This is the aspect of the business that is fully craven, right? And if something is going to turn off an advertiser, then you don't want to monetize it. I totally get that. And again, that's why I'm not really making a fuss. But I do think it's important for you as a viewer of YouTube to be aware that this kind of stuff happens, and be all the more tolerant of your favorite content creators doing things to diversify their income streams, whether it be through in-video sponsorship or merch sales or Patreon, something like that. Especially for people who are in that 5-6 figure of subscribers range. They just don't make that much money, and if one piece of content gets demonetized, then that can really mess with their basic cash flow to survive. So please be tolerant of people looking for other revenue streams, okay? And if you're a content creator, don't get mad, get paid, which is what I'm doing right now. This video is probably going to get a whole lot of hits, and it's going to make up for the revenue that I lost on Thursday. I will say I am a little bit mad at Google, madder than I used to be when it came to these kinds of things. I used to say, hey, look, they have this massive volume of content that they have to review all the time. It's a completely inhuman task, and they do the best they can with it, whatever. But here's the thing. Let's look at their earnings reports. They have the money to spend more money on intelligent human content moderation. They just choose not to. And I am finding myself more open to potential legislative solutions to problems like these, to sort of regulate the relationship between platforms and content creators through law. The United States is probably not going to be the one to do that, especially in light of recent Supreme Court decisions that took away much of, in effect is probably going to take away much of the power of the administrative state in the US, but hey, EU, you've been doing some good work along these lines, although those constant cookie authorization things on websites, I find those super irritating, but maybe they're worth it. Now, if you excuse me, I need to clean up this mess and cook something, and I need to guard against my own implicit cultural biases, which are many. Good luck to you.